Standard 5th, Subject EVS 1, Chapter 4, Environmental Balance. Dear students, in the previous chapter you learnt about the earth and its living world. Now, let us learn about environmental balance. Try this. Ask the elders in your family to take you to a riverside or to a lake or stream. Make a list of all the living things you see there. You will see many living things around there, right? If you do not know the names of any of the living things you see, make a note of them describing their shape, color, sound, shelter, etc. Or draw their pictures. Count how many types of living things you see. This way you will come to know about the living things around us. Now, repeat the activity near your house, in the school garden, or in a field, anywhere of your choice. And then answer the following questions. First, in the course of your observations, did you notice any signs of the presence of living things, though the living things themselves were not seen? For example, did you notice any partly eaten fruits or shells, fallen feathers, animal tracks, dung, droppings, nest, cocoons, eggs, honeycombs, etc.? Yes, you may say different types of living things were seen in different places. Some signs of their presence are also seen sometimes, even if these living things are not seen themselves. For example, you may see partly eaten fruits, shells, fallen feathers, animal tracks, dung, droppings, nest, cocoons, eggs, honeycombs, etc. may be noticed during observations. Partly eaten fruits can confirm that there were squirrels, monkeys, or some fruit eating birds before you arrived there. From the fallen feathers, one could guess about the type of birds that visited this place. We can also guess from the animal tracks, pug marks, dung, or droppings about the animals that were there in that area. So, this is what we observe in a surrounding. Now, could you observe any microorganisms in the surrounding? No, we are not able to see microorganisms with a naked eye. We need a microscope to confirm these. So, it is not possible to observe microorganisms directly using observations. Okay, during observations, we cannot see microorganisms just directly. The next question is, how many types of living things did you see at the places you visited? You may say there were two or three types of animals and few birds also you may see. So do you think that you saw all the kinds of living things that belong there? No, of course not. Maybe some were not there present at that time. Did you see the same living thing at various places or different ones? Yes, your answer would be that you saw different animals because different animals are seen in different places. So, dear students, the variety we see in all the living things that belong to a particular area is called the biodiversity of that place. So, by answering all these questions, you will come to know what is meant by biodiversity. Biodiversity is nothing but the variety we see in the living things that belong to a particular area. Okay. Now, can you tell which one of the places you visited shows greater biodiversity? Yes, you would say greater biodiversity is seen in the areas in and around forest. There are many animals in forest, many birds, many reptiles. So, we will see a great biodiversity in forest. To study the biodiversity of a place, scientists make a large number of observations. They make these observations in different conditions, such as day and night, in different seasons, etc. They use special devices to make observations of living things that are found at great heights or depths as well as of microorganisms. Observations of many scientists are brought together and studied again. Only when all such efforts are made over a long period of time can we be sure of the biodiversity of a place. So, simply we cannot say that so and so animal is found in a particular place. The scientists make a thorough observation. Now let's learn about the environment. The surroundings and the conditions in those surroundings which affect the life of the organisms there are together known as their environment. It includes many components such as sunlight, air, water, soil, plants and animals, etc. Now look at the pictures of the living and non-living things here. Discuss the mutual relationship between these various factors of the environment. So you will see that each animal is dependent on someone or the other for their growth. That means living and non-living things are dependent on each other. You will say how non-living things are dependent. Let's take example of soil. Soil becomes fertile only when microorganisms decompose certain matter, and then the soil becomes fertile. So this way soil depend on microorganisms. Soil is non-living things. And how living things depend on non-living things, we are already aware. We depend on sun. Okay, we depend on water. So this way living and non-living things are dependent on each other. There is a lot of give and take or interaction between them. This give and take is called interaction. Environmental science studies these interactions. So what does EVS or environmental science do? It makes a detailed study about these interactions. So now let's move on to the food chain. Look at the pictures below here. You will observe that a worm in this picture eats grass and leaves. A grasshopper on the other hand eats the worms, and the birds eat the grasshoppers. So this is a food chain. Now can you tell me who eats birds? Bigger birds eat smaller birds. Cats and snakes may also hunt smaller birds, right? What is the food of plants? So we can say that water and minerals in the soil is the food for plants. Also, carbon dioxide from the air and sunlight, with the help of sunlight, plant prepare their own food. So this way, all these form the food of plants. Now look at this picture. There are several links in this chain, right? If the links were to separate from each other, could they be called a chain? No, of course not. Even though each link is a complete object, it is joined to the links before and after it. If any link comes loose, the chain is broken. In the picture, we see the sun, some plants, a worm, a grasshopper, and a sparrow. They are all connected, and each of the components, plants, worm, grasshopper, bird, is food for the next one. That is why we say that they form a chain. So you can see with the help of arrows how grass becomes food for worm, worm becomes food for grasshopper, and grasshopper becomes a food for sparrow. Such a chain is called a food chain. Each of these components is a link in a food chain. If one also is broken, then the chain will get disturbed. Now can you tell? Look at this picture. What is the deer's food? Yes, we know that deer is a herbivorous animal. It eats grass, leaves, etc. What is the food for the tiger then? Tiger is a carnivorous animal. It feeds by hunting smaller animals. Now, the picture here shows another food chain. You have to guess the missing link in it. Look at the first and third pictures. Think of the connection between them and complete the chain. In the first picture, we see a worm feeding on leaves. And in the third picture, we see owl eating a mole or a mice. That means the second picture is that of a mice. The mice feeds on these worms and the owl feeds on the mice. So this way we can complete the chain. In nature, there are many food chains. If one of the links in a chain is lost from the chain, can the food chain last? No. Suppose the rabbit is missing from this food chain, then there will be too much of grass growing because the rabbit is not eating grass, and the snake will not get its food, which is the rabbit. So there should be a balance in nature, and that's what this chapter is all about: environmental balance. Now let's study about the food web. Observe the various food chains shown in this picture here. Can you tell? Find the different food chains of which the worm and the mouse form a link. Let's see the worm and the mouse, how they form a link. Here is the worm. The worm feeds on the leaves. The worm is eaten by a grasshopper. The grasshopper is eaten by a mouse, and the mouse is eaten by snake, and the snake is eaten by eagle or a vulture. So this forms a link, a food chain in nature. Now another food chain could be the grass is being eaten by the worm is eaten by the grasshopper is being eaten by the frog, and the frog is eaten by the snake, and the snake is eaten by the eagle. So this way we get various food chains in nature. One component can be a part of many other food chains. Like the frog you see here, frog can be eaten by snake, okay, and the mouse can be eaten by the bird directly, it can be eaten by the snake also. So many different food chains can be observed. One living thing can be a part of a number of food chains that give rise to a food web in nature. So such a picture is called a food web. Now what is the most important food in food chain? It is the plants. Every living thing gets its food from the environment. Let's see how. Many animals in the environment eat only plants. For example, you see in this picture camel, a deer, they feed on plants. They are herbivorous animals. Other animals eat the other animals that live on plants. For example, lion hunts a deer, or a snake hunts down a mice as its food, as its prey. These are carnivorous animals. But plants make their own food in the presence of sunlight using water and the carbon dioxide from the air. It means that the plants are the main support of every food chain, because plants prepare their own food and other animals are dependent on plants and other animals. So this way we can say that the most important food in food chain are plants. Now let's learn more about environmental balance. There are many food chains in our environment. Because of these food chains, every living thing gets the food it needs and therefore continues to live. Microorganisms living in the soil help the process of decomposition of plant residue, dead animals, excreta, etc. Means the microorganisms which are present in the soil, they act upon these remains which are added to the soil. Any dead body of animals, its excreta means animal waste or leftovers of plants, they decompose and then the soil becomes fertile. So as a result, substances that help the growth of plants are formed and get added to the soil. Now plants use them for their growth. So who's acting? Microorganisms are acting on the remains or the waste and making soil fertile. And this fertile soil is used by plants for their growth. Thus, plants use substances in the soil for their growth, and when plants and animals die, again the decomposition of their remains add these substances to the soil. So this is an important cycle in the environment. Also, living things get a continuous supply of water because of the water cycle. You have learnt about it in the previous chapter, right? So water cycle is also another important chain. Living things use oxygen from the air. So here you see animals, they are using this oxygen from the air. And what they are giving out? Carbon dioxide. And so animals use oxygen and give out carbon dioxide gas. Plants use this carbon dioxide gas, okay, from the air for making their food. And oxygen is given out in the process and gets added to the air again. So, this too is a cycle in nature. Animals use oxygen, give out carbon dioxide. Plants use carbon dioxide and give out oxygen. There are several other such cycles in nature. Thus, there is interaction amongst living things and between living and non living things in nature. The interactions go on continuously. This helps to maintain the food chains in the environment. When the various cycles in the environment go on uninterrupted, environmental balance gets maintained. That means we should not disturb this environmental balance. We should not try to break any chain. Now, students, always remember for the existence of living things, it is important that environmental balance is maintained. So, what we have learned? There are innumerable types of living things on the earth. Second, there is interaction between living and non living things in the environment. Third, different kinds of animals, plants, and microorganisms are found in different regions of the earth. And fourth, the water cycle, various other cycles, and food chains in nature help to maintain the balance in the environment. This balance has been maintained for thousands of years, so man should not do anything to destroy or disturb this balance. So, students, hope you have understood this lesson well. Do read this chapter from your textbook for a better understanding. Stay safe, keep learning, and thank you.